It's exactly 11 a.m. right here in Kenya's capital, Nairobi. You're right in time for your favorite political show. This is the Sunday edition right here on KTN News. On a day, we're getting some developing story from Mathare slum, to be specific, Baba Dogo area. Reports reaching us is that clashes have been reported in that part of the city. So far, 4 people have been killed, among them a woman. 3 vehicles have been burnt down. We're getting reports that the tension is still very much high. Police have promised to issue a statement any moment from now. NASA, through their secretariat, have also issued a statement saying that some of their supporters are being targeted in that part of the town. Well, we cannot substantiate that, but we have our reporter Hussein Mohammed on the ground is going to join me shortly and tell me more on what is exactly happening. Once again, report reaching us from Mathare is that 4 people have been confirmed dead. One among them is a woman. Well, the cause of the clashes we're yet to know. But Hussein Mohammed, our reporter, is on the ground and is going to join me shortly and tell me more. NASA have already said their supporters are being targeted in that part of the city. Police, although have promised they're going to issue a statement and tell us conclusively on what exactly transpired. At this hour, tension is still very much high. Once again, this is a Sunday edition right here on KTN News. Apart from that, a developing story. Actually, let me just revisit the main story this morning, where we have received news that well, Hussein Mohammed is going to join me shortly, but remember, this is a political show. We're going to discuss more what exactly transpired for the better part of, from Monday to Saturday. Something big happened. Raila Odinga, that is the NASA leader, was welcomed back home. And amid chaos, you've seen all the development there, the clashes between the police and some of the NASA supporters. 5 people are confirmed dead after that clashes ensued. And we're also going to talk more on other political developments in the area, even as Jubilee continues or insists that they will not allow anyone to break the rule. We've seen President Uhuru Kenyatta there talking very tough in Nyeri. We're going to have those clips shortly for you, but first let me introduce our guest in studio. As usually, have Dismas Moko, who's a political risk analyst. We have Mark Bichache, political analyst. Hezbono Wheeler, who's also a political analyst. Last but not the least, we have Mutinda Kavemba. But for now, let's listen in to what the NASA leader Raila Odinga said. Of course, he blamed the president and his deputy for what ensued or transpired on Friday. And then we're also going to hear feedback from the president and his deputy in Nyeri. Well, we're going to get those sound bites shortly. But Dismas, before we even talk about what took place on Friday, how police acted, let's focus on the development in Mathare this morning. I mean, is it something that should have been avoided?
Well, it should have been, it must actually, there are no words to describe this, because when you look at the pictures and you see the way the people, the victims have been killed, it's unacceptable. And the principal duty of any administration in the world is to secure lives and properties. So right now, the Jubilee administration is failing in its core business. That's to secure lives and properties of citizens. And nobody in Kenya is supposed to be penalized for taking a political position. If you decide to support Jubilee, if you decide to support NASA, if you decide to support Third Way Alliance, whichever political formation you decide to support, you are not supposed to be punished for that. And we should be in a position to have a criminal intelligence network which is so swift, so agile, that they are able to predict. They're supposed to be on the ground and have this information, that if there's any element wanting to engage in mischief, then this thing is supposed to be nipped in the bud. Because right now, for majority of Kenyans, we are looking at these as statistics. Because, they say that when one person dies, it's an issue of concern. But when it's more than one, it becomes statistics. So there are a number of us who are saying, how many guys are dead? Maybe 5 or 6. But we are talking about breadwinners. We are talking about parents. We are talking about children. And what is going to happen at the end of the day, it's going to be blame game. The NASA folks are going to blame Jubilee. Jubilee is going to blame NASA. And at the end of the day, we are going to maintain the status quo. It's unacceptable. And one hopes that the Inspector General of Police is going to investigate all the allegations so that the architects of this mess are punished. And not only the people who participated in the actual murder or burning property or killing people, but even the architects. Because we understand in Kenya where we are today, people are beginning to organize themselves in gangs. That you can come up with an idea and finance people, they go and execute it. And this is totally unacceptable. And secondly, the tragedy of this, because these people come from particular neighborhoods, and now we need to come to reality that Kenya is now a tribalist nation. One hopes that the Inspector General of Police again is going to move with speed to ensure that we don't have retaliation. Because they are neighbors,
yes.
or their family and friends.
And speaking about retaliation, Dismas, Mark, we've seen some vehicles that were burnt down on Friday. And there are reports from the ground that whatever is happening in Mathare now might be a retaliatory kind of attack from what happened on Friday. Because even today, three vehicles were burnt.
Yusuf, allow me for once to give you a bit of my history. I grew up in Egerton University, Njoro campus. That's where my mom worked. And I saw tribal clashes in 1992. I saw tribal clashes in 1995. I saw tribal clashes in 1997. How did we see them? Now, away from school would be someone being carried with an arrow in his stomach. I saw students being shot at police. I remember one of my colleagues in primary school got shot in the leg when he was walking home from playing basketball, and beknownst to him there was a strike. Now, here's the problem. If I asked the average Kenyan, or the average African for that matter, do we remember who shot down John Garang's chopper? We don't know. Do we remember what happened in Rwanda and Burundi when the respective presidents were killed to begin the ethnic cleansing that happened there? We don't remember. Now, here's the problem that we're doing in Kenya right now. We are playing with matches. What we are doing is we keep lighting fires, and not the fires of the vehicles, but we're lighting the fires of the hearts of the people, the passions of tribalism, hoping that somehow we will gain political advantage. Now, the problem is this. At the end of the day, we are going to be fighting so much we will forget who did what. Right now, already in the incidences that happened on Friday and Saturday and even this morning, we can't tell who's doing what. Now, the problem with that is we are putting the building blocks of a war. In fact, were this the 1800s, what has happened in the last 3-4 days is nothing short of a war. What is missing is the number of guns needed to have modern conventional warfare. So what Kenya is doing and what our leaders are doing, and I'm not even going to try and be partisan about this, I blame both sides. Absolutely, fully blame them, because what we are doing is we are allowing our people to play with matches, and the problem is when the fire starts, no one will remember who to blame.
And of course, Mark, no one deserves to die because of politics. Husband, I'm going to come to you shortly, but let me just recap this for our viewers. At least 4 people have been killed in an attack by known people in Mathare area right here in the capital, Nairobi. Among the dead is a woman. Now, the early morning killings has sparked protest in the area, with some parts of Outer Ring Road being blocked by the angry residents. 3 vehicles have been burned in the ensuing violence. Nairobi Police Boss Japhet Koome is set to issue a statement this morning about the violence in the area. And let me just recap that again. Our reporters, of course, are on the ground gathering information, and we will be bringing you details about this within this program. Hussein Mohammed, as I've already mentioned, is on the ground. So far, 4 people have been confirmed dead, among them a woman. NASA have issued a statement. We cannot independently verify or substantiate that information. Of course, we're going to link up with Hussein, and he's going to tell us more. But what is evident is that whatever has taken place in Mathare is political. Husband, does anyone deserve to die because of politics at this time and era in our country?
It is very sad that Kenyans are losing their loved ones, Kenyans are losing their lives because of political bickering and lack of leadership among our leaders from both sides of the political divide. No one deserves to even get an injury because of a political cause of any individual. And I think we live in a modern state, and it is important to start pointing fingers at the right places. We cannot have a situation where people are meting violence on other Kenyans and police retaliates by meting violence on these people. A criminal is a criminal. From whichever tribe, whichever region, a criminal is a criminal and is a threat to the harmony in whichever society they find themselves in. And therefore, I want to echo what Dismas is saying, that we have intelligence, and this is a modern democracy, a state that has enough machinery, and it is only the state that is given the prerogative to use force. So I would expect, instead of blaming individuals, the state should use the machinery that it has to identify the architects of these atrocities in the society, because that is what they are. Apprehend them and charge them. If there is violence, I don't think small people in some of these, estates in Nairobi have the capacity to organize themselves and make violence on Kenyans who are going about their business and ban businesses. So I think it is incumbent upon the state, to stop talking political, that we will not allow. They need to do something. They need to find the people who are involved in this. They need to apprehend them.
And of course,
on the other side, I also think that the police should now come of age. I mean, the constitution that we have today envisions a police service. But what we are seeing is a degeneration of what we have as a police force to something worse. We cannot have a police force that is meting violence on people who are within the constitution. And remember, when some of these things happen, you ask yourself, where do these people come from? They walk long distances. Do they destroy properties? No. Why is it that it starts at the point where they meet the police? So the police also has to take responsibility. They have to redefine the way they are handling some of these guys. They have to understand the limits to which you can exercise, the force that you have as an agency of the state to mitigate against violence in the society.
And of course, we do expect a statement from the police. They did promise that they're going to issue a statement any time from now. We're going to listen into what they're going to say and the explanation behind that. Now, let me engage Kavemba's experience when it comes to Nairobi politics. People always say that violence is always not spontaneous. It's planned. As someone who is involved in Nairobi politics, did you see this coming? This kind of an event in Mathare?
It's really, I wouldn't say that I didn't see it coming, but you've been seeing the kind of hate mongering that has been taking place. There is a lot of extreme positions that are being taken on either side, and those are the things that bring forth such atrocities. The most unfortunate thing is the angle that the current violence has started taking. Because initially, it used to be the people versus some state agencies, mostly the police. But now it's starting to take the very bad and unfortunate angle of citizens against citizens. And something needs to be done very urgently, because that is what really degenerates so fast that by the time we know what is happening, the whole country is on fire. Because now these are the kind of things that attract retaliatory attacks. And from where I sit, I think we really need to sober up. Because we do not need to go to the extremes we went in the 2007, 2008 post-election violence for us to again start talking about this. Because we need to have learned. Because this is not a new thing that is going to happen. 10 years ago, we were on the same path, and we know what happened. And eventually we had to sit down. So why then do we want to go to that extent before we can agree that we have to find a way out of whatever is happening? And as leaders, we need to tone down, because I have seen, if you look at what has been happening on the social media, you will agree that it was just a matter of time before it now goes to the ground. These things have really been happening on the social media and on other platforms. The only place that did not gone is now on the ground for people to start attacking each other.
And we're witnessing that.
Yes, so this is something that calls for urgent intervention. We need to sober up. We do not need to always shed innocent blood. And the most unfortunate thing is that these people might probably have nothing to do with what is happening. It's just that some people want to send messages using slaughtering of innocent people so that a certain message is sent. And the people who are being slaughtered are very innocent. There are people who are struggling with, you look at the neighborhood where this is happening. Those are people who are struggling with the basics.
Probably the only offense they made is their last name. Now,
what we need to say is this. We have been talking about the second liberation. What was the second liberation about? It was about democratization of this country. Why then are we killing each other for taking our democratic rights, for taking our positions? I thought that when we were saying that we have actualized the second liberation by the passage of the 2010 Constitution, it was that we will never attack or abuse or insult anybody for practicing their democratic rights. Yet what is happening is it is taking us way back I wonder whether we actually got where we wanted by the 2010. We probably passed the constitution, but we never internalized what that constitution was all about.
Dismas, it seems election year, every time in Kenya there's always a motive. There's always tension. So you've talked about, leaders are supposed to be responsible. Do you think they should have that kind of, trying to censor themselves whenever they speak in these public rallies?
Well, all political leaders, be they Jubilee or NASA, must respect the Constitution. And the Constitution is very clear that you must respect property, you must respect lives. But more important is the law enforcement officers. And in this case, it's the Kenya Police. So the questions we need to start asking ourselves, because the nation is bleeding, and Yusuf, we cannot afford to tiptoe on this important issue. Let's ask ourselves fundamental questions. Do we have a Kenya Police Service, or do we have a Kenya Police Force? Now, let's assume that we have a Kenya Police Service. Within the police service, do we have elements that belong to some gangs? Because, the footage we saw on Friday, policemen throwing stones. I don't know whether there's a training in Kiganjo for policemen to be throwing stones. And these are officers of rank. When you look at the badges, when you look at the regalia, you tell these are officers of rank. Throwing stones. Is there a probability that proscribed gangs have infiltrated the Kenyan Police Service so that they're throwing stones? Because, you cannot imagine that a GSU officer or an AP can actually throw a stone at a motorist. Now, would it be possible that the Inspector General has actually not seen this footage, or he has seen the footage and is happy with this? Now, there are statements coming from Kariobangi this morning, or from Mathare this morning, that the residents there suspect that the people who are committing these atrocities, in fact, are not members of the Kenyan Police Service. They're claiming they're members of some gangs. And because of national interest, you may not want to mention the name now. But they're members, they're criminal gangs. But they're in police attire. So now you're beginning to wonder, for how long is the state going to be seated while we have criminal gangs running the nation? For how long are you going to be seated as the Inspector General of Police when people are being killed? And it's all about profiling. Is it strange that the people who are being killed in Mathare are members of particular communities? These are the questions we need to start asking as a nation. Because if we tiptoe around these issues, then the nation is going to degenerate. And in the next few days, you will not have a nation called Kenya. And nobody wants any person in Kenya to become a refugee. You don't want Kenyans to go to Tanzania, where our cows are being auctioned, or we start going to Uganda, where Museveni is mistreating people in Migingo. We want to keep this nation together. And the Inspector General of Police and Dr. Matiang'i, they need to come quickly. Because if the residents are claiming these members, the people who are committing these atrocities are members from proscribed gangs, then one would have expected that the Inspector General, through the criminal intelligence system, is actually going to pick that information and do the investigations. Because if there was consequence for breaking the rules, then even the politicians would remain sane. But in Kenya, what happens? You get a policeman throwing a stone at a motorist, and when he goes back to the officer's mess, he's celebrated as a king. There are people on Jogoo Road who are burning vehicles, and this is a live coverage, meaning that the local police commander is actually able to identify those people. Where can they be picked and face prosecution? At the end of the day, now in Kenya, we're beginning to celebrate breaking the rule of law and order. You break the rule of law and order, while the police are watching, you go back home, you are celebrated. Like now, I suspect the people who have committed these atrocities, they're having a breakfast somewhere and they're being treated as kings.
Yes. Now Mark, from Dismas' point of view, it seems there's a very thin line between these gangs he's talking about and the police officers.
This is what I totally want to avoid. If we want to apportion blame in a room full of mad people, you will spend the whole day trying to find who's madder than the other. The reality of the matter is this: whether in police uniform or outside of police uniform, anyone who did something that is illegal by name of either stoning cars illegally, using a live ammunition illegally, whether in police uniform or not, that is wrong. Whether a NASA supporter or not, the person who went and pillaged a shop, burnt a car, is wrong. And that's where we need to begin. This whole trying to find out who is the worst of these two mad people is a waste of time. And let me tell my nation, if we feel safe in our NASA cocoons and our Jubilee cocoons, because I've seen social media, someone wrote to me and said, oh, please blame this side because of this what happened. Listen, any sane human being, and if we are honest to ourselves, one life lost is one life too many. One woman raped is one woman too many. One car burnt is one car too much. We don't need to get to the point where this is obviously going, and I wish Kenya would listen to me. We are obviously going towards a situation where we're going to be profiled by our last names, and I'm tired of being asked whether Bichachi is a Kisii, Kamba, Luyo, Kalenjin name. The good thing is at least I'm safe. But for everyone else who has an obvious name, where we are headed to is we're going to start ethnically profiling people, and that does not end well for the country. And that's what a Jubilee on NASA issue.
Let's put Friday under our focus now.
Yes.
Do you think police could have acted differently? They banned the rally at Uhuru Park. JKD was declared, out of bounds. Other rallies were banned just before Raila Odinga landed on Friday. That was a rally that was supposed to act like a curtain raiser for NASA. Do you think police could have acted differently, perhaps, to just avoid this confrontation?
The reason why I am not apportioning blame to any side is because no one was right. You see, the best way to handle someone of Raila's stature, okay, is to handle him in a way where you avoid to create martyrs in any situation. That's what you do. In other words, the police should have worked hand in hand with NASA to make sure this procession from, from the airport to wherever he was going was as safe as possible. Why do we have this kind of madness? Simply because, you see, if I know that these protesters are going to pass through my route, my shop would have been closed. My Uber would not have been on the road. My taxi would not be on the road because I know this is the route they're using. But once they banned it, no one knew which route they used. I left this very station that morning and I escaped by the skin of my teeth because I drove through the bypass. I get to my house 15 minutes later, the whole place has erupted. What does that tell you? The police have a responsibility to carry, and it would be unfair for us to say the police don't have a responsibility, and it is unfair to say that Raila Odinga does not have any responsibility, and unfair to say that the people who demonstrated, everyone here is guilty.
Esmond, okay, Dismas, you have a burning issue, but at the same time, where will that leave the police? I'll come to you, Dismas. Let me talk to Esmond for now. If they act, well, they're told, they're brutal and everything. If they don't, then they're told, protecting people.
If we go back to Friday, and if you want to call a spoon, a spade, not a big spoon, it is obvious that on Friday, the police were out of order. Everything that happened, the blame squarely rests with the police. And we have footages, police officers throwing stones at motorists. And why am I saying this? Because I used the same route that NASA supporters were using while walking to the airport. They were not doing anything against the law. Nothing. They were just walking. And there is nothing wrong in a group of people, whether they're in millions, in hundreds, going to meet someone at the airport. Every day, normal Kenyans go there and meet their people. So if a group of people who have their aspirations and their beliefs in Raila Odinga decide to go to the airport, there's nothing wrong. So
provided it's peaceful, right?
Yes, the first mistake that the police did was to criminalize that. Police officers or the police force does not make laws in this country. They are supposed to obey the law. And there is no law that criminalizes peaceful procession. Now, these guys were going to the airport, and you look at what police officers were trying to do, you ask yourself, as a service, are you supposed to protect these guys from any other forces that might be introduced to cause chaos? And then secondly, as a police force, are you supposed not to ensure that any other person who is going about his business is protected? If the police had just done their work to ensure that everyone in this country is safe in whatever they're doing. Because we are paying taxes. The guys who are going to meet Raila Amolo Odinga are paying taxes. They need security from the police. The guys who are supposed to have their Uber, their Taxify, their business, they also need to be protected by the police. That is the only thing the police officers needed to do. They didn't have to lob tear gas. They didn't have to unleash terror on people. They didn't have to throw stones. And coming back to what this man said, sometimes you want to look at what is going on the social media, and believe it with a pinch of salt. But the picture that I've been doing round, I mean, leaves a lot to be desired. I'm not saying that people have infiltrated the police force, but you look at the posture of certain people in police uniforms, you start asking yourself, I know the criteria for recruiting a police officer, you know, and you see guys who don't meet at all. Therefore, if we talk about the police force, even the police need to evaluate themselves. What are they doing? And do they have criminals amongst themselves? They deal with that. Then they need to reevaluate how they deal with people who are peacefully demonstrating. How best can they do that to ensure that if people are going to meet the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, they meet him, they escort him, and he goes wherever he's going. I think we'd have a peaceful country if people are allowed to do everything that they want to do within the law. The police did not allow NASA to do that.
Can you also talk about the people, whether in NASA or not, who caused violence? You know, the thing is,
I did.
the problem. Let's not separate.
Okay.
I've made it clear that it is the work of the police officers to arrest these people.
Let's allow Kavemba to get into this conversation. Once again, Kavemba, you know, when police acted, people accused them of being brutal. If they could have left the NASA supporters to move on, go and welcome the NASA leader, those who are from Jubilee are saying, these are not just people moving on peacefully. They're looters among them. So where will that leave the police?
Now, first, it's good to be very honest with ourselves. I have grown up in this city, like you said, other than just doing politics. I grew up here, I went to primary school. This is where I've been all my life, other than the few stints I went out to study. And the truth of the matter is that there are people who take advantage of such situations. And there are people who leave their homes knowing very well that they are going to commit crimes, hiding in the confusion because there are very many people. So the question then is, how then do we ensure that we do our things in a way that we can easily identify such people, instead of dealing with everybody as if all of them are criminal elements? Because the truth of the matter, again, is that there are people who are very innocent and who went there not to cause any crime, just to exercise their political right of association and welcoming their leader. But in amidst them, there are others who are, again, very clear that they are looking for a situation where they'll be able to loot, steal, mug, and do all sorts of bad things. So the question is, how then can we ensure that those who are well-meaning are protected, and we can easily identify those who are out to commit crimes? Because what was happening on Friday, it was not possible to tell who is innocent and who is out to commit crimes. And to me, that was the most worrying situation, because clearly what happens is that those who will suffer most, and I can assure you, those who suffer most are the innocent, because they are not prepared. You know, when you're going to commit a crime, you are conscious of all dangers of whatever activity you're undertaking. But when you are an innocent
there's someone who said when it comes to demonstration, it should be given a clear definition with Kenya in mind. I'm going to come to you, Dismas. Coincidentally, this is a conversation that is also on the Sunday Nation splash here. But for now, allow me to engage Alphonse, who is a youth leader from Mathare slums, Babadogo area, I believe, and that is where clashes were reported since early this morning. Reports reaching us is that 4 people have been confirmed dead from that clash there. Now, Alphonse, if you could hear me, good morning. And what is the situation like on the ground, and what exactly transpired since morning?
Good morning. My names are Alphonse.
Yes.
Alphonse, I'm working for Mathare Peace Initiative Kenya. And I received a call very early in the morning today that there are people who are shot dead around a border between Mathare and Babadogo area.
Yes.
Then what I did, I rested in the morning, and in fact I found 4 bodies of middle-aged people, 1 woman, a pregnant woman, and 3 other guys. Yes.
So from your own point of view, I'm sure you've spoken to the people there on the ground. What exactly caused the clashes there? Does it have anything to do with politics?
I think these things are politically investigated, because it is believed that that was carried out by the military. Because there is some people with bullet wound and the finger on their head.
Yes.
And na wote wamepigwa risasi na wote bado wamekatwa, including the woman. Yes.
So, Alphonse, where did you see any police officer, maybe from police officers there since morning? Were they deployed?
Yeah, there is a number of police officers around, and they have been engaging with the communities with bullets and tear gas from morning. But apparently the body has been taken away by the police. Yes.
And without going into the tribes of perhaps the background of these people who've been killed, the four of them, was there any kind of tension reported in Mathare maybe for the last 1 week?
Actually, yesterday we reported tension, but it was an underground. There was tension between the two different communities, the community that's supporting NASA and other communities from the city side.
Thank you, Alphonse.
Reported yesterday.
Yes, thank you, Alphonse, for that. And we also have our reporter on the ground, Hussein Mohammed, who has been at the Mathare slums since morning. I'm going to engage him shortly, and he's going to give us much more details from Mathare. What we know so far is that 4 people have been killed, and one of them is a woman. 3 vehicles have been burnt down, and we're also getting reports that NASA leader Raila Odinga might make his way there any moment from now. But let's continue the conversation in studio. And I told you, this is another story that has been, of course, this is a story that has been covered on the Sunday Nation. And they're talking about how police plotted to stop Raila's march. They're also saying details emerge of security plan that started on Thursday to block access to airport and frustrate NASA leaders' return rally. But hard questions linger on the strategy following the death and destruction caused. It seems police sat down and really planned on what to do on Friday.
If indeed the police sat down and planned on what they were supposed to do on Friday, then it's very clear they did shoddy work. I've gone through that story, and it lacks content. It's just a powerful headline to sell the story. But let's go back to history. Wherever a top politician has come back, you recall retired President Kibaki, Matiba, President Uhuru himself. When they go out of the nation to do some political work and they come back to Nairobi, they normally get their supporters to receive them from the airport. And none of those incidences has resulted in this kind of atrocities being committed. I remember for President Kenyatta and his deputy, when they came back from ICC, they were well received at the airport. In fact, it's on record that the then Minister for Interior, Olelenku, the cabinet secretary, requested people to go to the airport to go and receive the president. And they made a huge, there was a huge demonstration through the town, and eventually there was a meeting.
So you're saying there's a double standard?
There's a double standard. And, history tells us that for any demonstration, if you allow it to engage in a peaceful manner without the police trying to brutalize anybody, almost always it ends up in a peaceful manner. Now, what one would have expected from the police commanders in Nairobi is when they knew that NASA is planning to receive Raila Odinga at the airport in this manner that they did, for them to go and have a meeting and agree on the route they were going to follow, so that that route is safe and secure. And it happens during all these marathons. Wherever there are marathons in Nairobi, roads are going to be closed. The police always give us notification that a particular road is going to be closed for a particular number of hours for this purpose. That's what one would have expected of the police to do. And Atulia said this times above number that Mr. Raila Odinga loves to thrive in a crisis. You create a crisis for him, it's like fish in water. He enjoys this crisis. Then let's go to the issue of the policemen.
Yes.
Again, we cannot tiptoe around this issue. That on Friday, the police actually provoked the NASA supporters. The NASA supporters had been told by their leader that I'm coming from the US, I've got some message of goodwill, I'm giving you a plan of action, please come and receive me. Now, what the police should have done is then to ensure that the procession is very safe and secure, and ensure that you have the intelligence men in the procession. So that if you get somebody in the procession who sees a kiosk across the road with bread and milk and they want to pinch it, they're arrested immediately instead of engaging in these kind of shenanigans. And right now, the Inspector General of Police should be a very worried man for one reason, that the NASA supporters do not anymore fear police bullets. They don't fear live bullets. They don't fear tear gas. They don't fear acidic water. And in essence, they don't fear authority. And if they had planned well their trip, then we would be in a safe place. But right now, going forward, there's a very high chance that a section of Kenya is being radicalized.
And this was, of course, the NASA leader Raila Odinga has already blamed both President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy for what transpired on Friday. But the president later on said, quote unquote, I will not allow a few people to destroy the country. We'll have those sound bites shortly for you. But Mark, it's only fair I give you like 30 seconds. You react to that before we take a break. Very briefly.
The key issue here is this, that we need to support to distinguish between three groups of people. Number one, if you're in Jubilee, distinguish between Raila Amolo Odinga, his supporters, and those who wish to take advantage of the violence.
Those are three groups.
Those three groups needs to be distinguished, because the problem is when you approach Raila supporters the way you approach Raila Odinga, then you're lost. If you approach these people who cause violence the way you approach Raila Odinga supporters, you're lost. Those three groups need to be important.
We're going to discuss about those three groups in detail, but for now we're going to take a very short break. But when we come back, I'm going to talk to our reporter Hussein Mohammed, who is in Mathare at this moment, where we're getting reports that 4 people have been killed after clashes erupted there. Among them, a woman. Police have promised to issue a statement any moment from now. NASA leader Raila Odinga is also expected on the ground. Of course, this is Sunday edition right here on KTN News. We'll be right back. Don't go too fast. Stay with us.